Hey friends, I'm Linda and this is Kelly, and we are doing the Grow Curriculum Deep Dive for the series Behind the Scenes from Grow Kids Volume 6. And just for these next few minutes, we're going to be giving you a big picture overview of behind the scenes and what you could expect. But also, we want to tell you about some of the cool features that you might not have noticed, or we just want to give it to you ahead of time because we like you. So make sure you stay tuned and tell us what you think because we just really want to help you be ready to teach behind the scenes next month.
Linda, first of all, Queen, you look fabulous today. I shall be your peasant. You shall be Queen Linda from here on out. So that is what I will refer to you as. Friends, if you are a Grow user, our goal with this is to give you a head start in prepping for behind the scenes. And if you're not a Grow user, that's cool too. We love you. Feel free to steal some of these ideas. With what this deep dive is going to do, we are going to give you a look at the series overview. Then we are going to take a look at the theme for the month, then the structure, and finally, Linda and I are going to share some tips so that you will have everything you need to get ready for behind the scenes.
So Behind the Scenes is a series all about Esther. It's almost everyone's favorite story, right? It's such a great Bible story. And just like how any theater production won't come together without the stage managers, the lighting crew, wardrobe, prop masters, and the like, we want to give kids a more in-depth look at all the ways God was present and at work in Esther's stories, even though we don't really see God in the metaphorical spotlight.
So first, we're going to start off week 1 with Esther's origin story in Esther chapter 2. Even though the story is just the beginning, kids will realize that Esther becoming the queen of Persia is not a random fluke. And this is why this week's big idea is God works behind the scenes.
In week 2, kids will hear about the controversy between Mordecai and Haman in Esther chapters 3 and 6. They'll immediately see Haman as this villain who set a genocide in motion, while his rival Mordecai foils an assassination attempt and is honored by the king. So when kids compare and contrast these two people and their intentions and their actions, they'll learn that God helps us do good behind the scenes.
And that brings us to week 3, where Mordecai goes to Esther for help to stop Haman's evil plot in Esther's chapter 3 and 4. It turns out that they need each other's support. While Mordecai reminds Esther that she might have become queen for such a time as this, Esther asks Mordecai and the entire community to pray for her as she seeks an audience with the king. So this week's big idea is God gives support behind the scenes.
And finally, in week 4, kids get to see the story come to a resolution as Esther invites King Xerxes and Haman to a couple of banquets. And because she speaks up, she's able to save her people from a horrible fate, and they no longer have to live in fear. So that's why week 4's big idea is God gives us peace behind the scenes.
And our memory verse reminds us not only does God work behind the scenes, but helps us to do the same. This month it's Philippians 2:13, which says, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose."
Okay, everyone. So, the part that you probably all have been waiting for, we are going to talk about the theme. As you can tell, I love a good theme. And this month's decorating theme is kids' theater because there are so many behind the scenes elements that we can pull from, like plays and musicals. So, you might want to set up your space kind of like an elementary school production. Like, I'm talking cardboard sets, red curtains, pretend spotlights, or real spotlights if you have them, and just the works. As usual, let me defer to our programming queen to tell us more about how to do it upright for behind the scenes.
Well, there really is so much that you can do with this series. Of course, there's ideas in the programming guide, but I really want to highlight the Pinterest board for this series. So, every month in the programming guide, we provide you a link to the stuff you can use Pinterest board. So, here are some examples of things that you can do for behind the scenes. First, there's a DIY puppet theater set of instructions that you can dive into. You can create a small one for hand puppets or even a larger one for real actors. Linda, can you show us what you have?
Yes, so I can't take credit for this, but our friend who made some of our worked examples in the series created this little tiny kids puppet theater situation. It's all cardboard. It's this little box that she just dressed it up with some construction paper, and it's just so perfect. So it's so easy. You guys can do
So
this.
easy. Fun, so exciting. Like Linda said, you can create this space to look however you want. And on the Pinterest board, we actually have instructions for you to create your very own stage lights using colored paper plates and black construction paper. So if you don't have stage lights in your kids' space, that's okay. We have you covered there as well. This month, you can also go all out on the crafts, right? From making Queen Esther's crown to making Queen Esther herself out of paper bags or even wooden spoons. And last, I want to highlight a really cool snack idea. We give you a recipe to make your own Purim cookies. Now, Purim cookies are a special treat during the Jewish Purim festival. It's a shortbread cookie dough with tons of different filling choices. You can put in traditional toppings like poppy seeds and dates, or even something a little sweeter like chocolate.
I love all of these ideas, and I just cannot wait to see how you all do it. And so we'll say this a million times over, but please share with us what you're doing because we love to see all of your creativity out in the wild. Thank you so much for sharing all of those ideas. Make sure you do check out that Pinterest board and the rest of the programming guide because there are tons more ideas where that came from, more ideas for crafts, prizes, giveaways, and the like. Next up, we want to give you a look at the structure of the series. And if you've been using Grow for a while, then you'll know that some of the things stay the same, like our teaching series are always broken up into three major sections: what, so what, and now what. So the what section is kind of your intro section with all of the teaser activities and all the hype and the themed stuff. And then the so what section is where we get to really talk about the Bible stories and what they mean. And then finally, in our now what section is our application section where kids get to just dive deeper into what the story means and how it applies to their lives and what they can do about it.
And while some of the things stay the same, hopefully you've seen that every series and even each week has a different structure within that. So, with these deep dives, Linda and I want to help you see the structure that makes each series unique so that you can have a better grasp on it before you start teaching.
So, for this series, there are quite a few segments that make this series super special. And the first one I want to tell you about is the scripture module. We actually have two scripture modules in the elementary series, and one is the main Bible story, and the other is a secondary passage that helps support the big idea and the main story for the day. So, for the main Bible story from the book of Esther, we're going to try to teach it in a way that feels new and interesting to help kids focus and retain what's being taught because that's what we want. So in behind the scenes, we're going to pretend that we are doing like a dress rehearsal and kids kind of walked onto a set of this epic dress rehearsal, and the scene is going to be pantomimed by volunteers, and you can get kids involved in this as well. And so the great thing about this is it's rehearsal, so when the kids don't actually like do the motions properly or they're standing on the wrong side of the stage, you can call them out on it, and it'll just be really fun as you tell the story. You can be like, hey Mordecai, I said stage left, things like that. And I think that would be really cool. Just as a little bonus tip for you, however, if you look in our preschool lesson for behind the scenes, there are these instructions on making like finger puppets or like popsicle stick puppets. I just want to share with you because they're so cute. If you're like, I don't have enough volunteers, or maybe this is not just something I really enjoy, you can go ahead and create these little puppets. They're adorable, and you can use these to tell the story as well.
Another reoccurring activity in this series is a story module. So, in addition to the Bible story, we sometimes invite leaders to share personal anecdotes to help bring the concepts we're teaching into situations that kids can better relate to. So, every week in Behind the Scenes, your leaders can share a story about something they've experienced or witness, which is based on a prompt that's provided that speaks to the big idea for that specific week.
I think that is such a wonderful module that gets overlooked sometimes because it's so great for leaders to connect with kids by sharing their story. And it kind of goes in with the behind the scenes concept because kids don't know all of these stories about their leaders. So hearing that and be like, what, that happened to you? I think that might be really encouraging for them.
I think behind the scenes also is helpful to let our kids know that our leaders don't live at church, right? I have a life
Yeah.
outside of church. What about you?
I have a whole thing that goes on when I'm not here with you. The third module that's unique to behind the scenes is the reflection module. And the reflection module in Grow is a segment in the Now What section. So that's the application section where kids get to really sit with a question or a prompt and have them just really think more deeply about what's going on in the story and how it might apply to their lives. So in behind the scenes, every week's reflection time is called Soliloquy Bubble. Yes. Each week, kids get to pretend that they're one of the key people from the story, and it helps them get into character and imagine like what this character might have been saying to themselves. Because soliloquy is like a character talking to themselves. So, and then you can take this activity further by taking photos or videos of kids with their speech bubbles and creating a social media reel to show parents or just to have a nice recap of that week's lesson.
I love not just the theme, but also how each part of the lesson further instills the idea of it's a play, it's a show, it's something that's going on. And when we talk about the story of Esther, we kind of go through it. And I love that in this series, kids are really going to get to sit with each character and think through how are they feeling, were they scared, were they excited, and how they come together to make this amazing thing happen. So now that we've covered the overview and the theme and the structure of the series, Linda and I have just a few miscellaneous tips to help you make a little bit more out of this series.
Tip number one is to put on a real kids theater production. And like we were saying earlier, the Bible story is told in a way that looks like dress rehearsal. Well, you can actually repurpose that scripture time and make it an actual dress rehearsal and put on a whole production for your parents or for the whole church. And I think that'll just be super fun because actually, if you go and read the story script, it's actually pretty fun. And also, if you have specially skilled playwrights in your community, like reach out to them and maybe they just want to write a brand new one for you. Because the one that we've created inside the lesson itself, I think it's called something like The Epic Events of Esther and the Empire. Like we went all out with the E's, super fun. And I think that would be a really fun way to engage kids. And also not just, characters that are going to be on stage, but make sure you have a lot of characters who are doing like stage manager roles and props master, set designer, and then at the end when you do a curtain call, make sure you give them a standing ovation as well to kind of tie the behind the scenes theme with a nice little bow.
And tip number 2 goes right along perfectly with number 1. It's create a playbill. A fun way to include kids who may be too shy to act in your production is to create a crew. Ask kids to create a playbill. Maybe they can design tickets or even a production poster that you can use for marketing. That will really help the story of Esther come to life.
Yes, I love all of that. So, all in all, put on a great play or musical. Post that somewhere so that we can all see it. Especially in our wonderful Stuff You Can Use Facebook community. We are all here supporting each other, trying to do our very best. And we just love watching you interact and give us all your ideas. And so please continue to share with us and share with each other because we learn best from each other. And we just hope that you have a wonderful behind the scenes time. Even if you don't do these productions that we're suggesting, I think either way, I feel like kids are going to learn a lot more and a lot more deeply about the book of Esther than they had before. So we're really excited to see you dive into this. Well, thanks for being with us, friends. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.